Okay, Bob, I have made you a host again. Can you make me co-host?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone to Windows 10 settings. We're just getting people joining. We'll give them a minute or two to get to join in the meeting, and then we'll get started with our presentation and education and training and on Windows 10 and Windows 10 settings in particular. Bob Cohen, I'm going to be your guide for today. Hi, Wanda.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I have a neighbor that's getting some roofing work done, so I don't know if you
Okay.
hear any knocking or anything.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, let me see what I can do to adjust my audio settings here to sometimes we don't have a lot of control over that.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do. Is that any better now?
Yes, a lot
Okay.
better.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for helping out.
Sure.
Okay, Gail, hi. Kathy, hi.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. Carol, Sandra, Margie, Gladys, Evelyn.
hello.
James, hi. Hi. So let me get started with Windows 10 settings. What I want you to think about as I go through a little bit of the introduction is to give you an idea of what is going to be involved in
Hi,
using
Bob.
Windows 10
Sorry to
settings.
interrupt you. This is Victor, Bob. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you make me a co-host? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
I
already
just
co-host.
did, Victor.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so Victor from Get Set Up, one of our staff members, is our teaching assistant today. He'll be monitoring chat. If you have any questions or have any technical issues that occur during the meeting, hopefully if we mention some other classes as we go through the topics, because we're doing more and more Windows classes and topics come up, maybe he can help post some links there as well. And if you need to get a copy of the recording, which we're recording this session. I'm sorry, who's that?
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's okay, John. It's a good idea to mute your microphone. I'm going to go ahead and mute all for now. But if you need to unmute yourself, just unmute yourself if you have a question. Microphones pick up a lot of things on Zoom. One of the things that happens is that when you do have your microphone on, if you're and you say anything or make any noise, Zoom will assume that you're the speaker, and it'll pop your information up and show you that. Okay, so let's go through a few introductory slides, and we'll talk a little bit about Windows 10 settings and what we're going to cover today. And we'll pause for some questions that you might have, okay? So for those of you that have been on Get Set Up, welcome again to another class. For those of you that have taken classes for me, good to see you again. It's always nice to see repeat students and people that have taken other classes from me as well. We are a learning organization. We do over 300 classes on all types of topics, primarily focused on adults over 50, but they're open to anyone for free. You can request a recording after the class. You can always communicate with us at help@getsetup.io. And that's our email address for help, assistance, recordings, other things like that. And actually, the request for recordings is the most often most frequent email we receive at help@getsetup.io. If you're joining by live stream, hello out there on live stream channels, but we do encourage you to go to getsetup.io, register an account. They're free, and register for a class. And as we might mention some products or technologies or software Keep in mind, we aren't paid to promote anything on Get Set Up. A little about me. I live in Seal Beach, California. I live in an active adult over 55 community. I was born in Chicago. Pretty much went to the West Coast for college, stayed out here, started my own internet company and training company. And I've been training adults about technology since about 2007. And I hope, and what gives me a lot of pleasure is to try and make technology simpler to understand. And hopefully after this session, you'll feel much more comfortable with your Windows computer and what you do with it. So what we're going to cover today are some things like where to find the settings in Windows 10 and what in the world settings is. There's actually settings on many devices that you use, but what do they do? We're going to talk about some valuable settings. There's thousands of settings, so there's no way we can cover all of them today, but we're going to cover what seem to be the most important ones from my experience running a computer repair business and helping out people with technology. And we are going to do a checkup on your security and updates. That's always important to do. And I'll show you where there's some built-in troubleshooters and some things that you can do on your computer that you might not have been aware of. So before we get started with a few other slides and getting going on Windows 10 desktop, I'm going to share my desktop soon. Does anybody have any questions they're hoping that we would cover today in Windows 10 settings? And I'm going to pause for a sip of coffee here at this point too, okay? Okay, well, I'm sure as we go through the settings, things will prompt up. Has anyone ever used the settings on their Windows 10 computer, just wave or, okay, so you've explored it a little bit, but you might not be comfortable knowing where it is. When Microsoft introduced Windows 10, they set up this area of Windows called settings, which was much more consistent with other types of technology on the market. Macs, Androids, iPhones, etc. And before the settings, they had something called Control Panel. And now you can do everything and more in settings that you used to be able to do a Control Panel. It's also much easier to find and use. So first of all, how do you find settings? Well, the Start button is where you find most things on your Windows computer. But what you want to look for is a setting called the settings gear. Gears are pretty much used in all types of computer technology to really show you that this is how you can adjust and make changes to what's really going on with your device. That's kind of what settings does. Settings is a way to change how something works on your computer. It's kind of like adjusting the seat position on your car, or arranging books on a bookshelf, or rearranging furniture in a room. It changes, how it works and how it's laid out and how things are organized. And the idea being is that if you understand how to make these changes, you can make your computer more productive for you and easier to use in a lot of ways. And that's the whole purpose of settings. So does that help you understand what settings do a little bit, I hope? Okay, so where do you look at things? Let's take a look at some things we might want to do. For today, we're going to look at learning about your device and how much storage you have on it. Always good things to know about any computer, any technology you use. We're going to learn about how to connect and manage things like printers and wireless mice. We're going to take a look at default apps. Some people, one of the most common things that comes up in this class is people say, well, I don't want to use the built-in browser from Microsoft called Edge. I'd rather use Chrome all the time. And for those of you that want to learn how to make that change, we'll show you how to do that. We'll check up on Windows Update and security, and we'll take a look at some tools that can help make your computer easier to use from a vision and sound standpoint, and we'll take a look at personalization. And I'll show you where built into settings, there are troubleshooters all the way along. So let's take a look around. Let me change my sharing here to take a look and see if there's any questions we have at this point about settings. Anybody think of anything while we were going over some of these topics that they say, gee, I want to learn? Is there anyone in particular that said, gee, I'd really like to know more about that? Or, you know, if you're just interested in getting a general understanding of how Windows works under the hood, so to speak, this will help you as well. Okay. All right. Well, let me share my Windows 10 desktop here and show you what that looks like. Okay. So Windows 10 is Microsoft's operating system, and an operating system is what makes a computer functional, makes the hardware useful. The operating system is a kind of software that actually talks to all the devices and hardware and other things on your computer. It makes your Ethernet, connections work. It makes your keyboard work. It makes your screen work. It makes your mouse work. And Windows comes pre-installed on any Windows 10 computer. It's made by Microsoft, but Microsoft sells it to many, many computer manufacturers. But Windows 10 is Windows 10 from Microsoft, okay? And when you open up your desktop, the most common thing you probably are doing is going to your start menu. That's typically how you start to use your computer. It's where there are some controls and features that are available for you to use. So I'm going to move my mouse, and I'm going to move it slowly so that it catches up with you on Zoom. Sometimes there's a little delay, but if we click on the start button, we open up a menu. Okay, and this is the start menu on your screen. And the settings gear is right up here. If I scroll my mouse over the gear and just let it sit there for a second or two, that's actually a technique called a mouse hover, H-O-V-E-R, or mouse over. So when you hold your mouse over something or hover it over something, sometimes a little message or a menu or information pops up. So again, we go to the start menu and just go over to the settings gear and click and select settings. And a window pops up for settings. Now it's a window just like any other window on your desktop, and I'm going to maximize it by hitting the maximize button here on the window. That makes it full screen. There's a lot of settings. Okay, there's a little bit of information at the top. I do have a Microsoft account. I subscribe to Microsoft 365. And even if you don't, you can get a Microsoft account. It's free. I do use OneDrive for backing up files. It tells me that Windows update was last checked 2 hours ago. If I use the Bing browser for searching, they give you points. I don't know what the points get you. I'm not a big points, user or web browsing. And then they have some things for recommended settings here. Okay. Okay. Patricia, you want to learn how to take a still picture with Windows 10? I mean, like a screenshot type of thing with Windows?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll actually take a look at that. I'll see if I can remember how to do it. I don't do it that often with the built-in Windows setting because I use a third-party software often to do that, but it's actually a tool that's built in, an app that's built in. So if we have time later on, we'll before the end of class, we'll look at that. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. If I move my mouse over the settings headlines here, you can see there's a little outline that pops up around them, and that tells me that I'm ready to select this one. So if I click on search or system rather here, I'm sorry. If I click on system, it opens up the system settings. Okay, and this has a lot of settings built into it, but two valuable settings in system are about and storage. Okay, so about is down here. Let me get a darker color so you can see when I draw there, okay? There we go. About is down here at the bottom, and storage is right here. And we are on what's called system. So I also have a back arrow here in the upper left-hand corner. So if I want to go back to the main screen, I can. But I'm going to go all the way down to about and click on about. About just tells you information about what you can do on your, what's inside your computer. It tells you information like what is your processor. And oftentimes this is important because many applications will tell you you need to have at least a processor that is this model or higher in terms of performance, particularly if you have a little bit older computer. So you can tell what kind of processor you have in your computer right from within the settings, okay? It tells you how much installed RAM you have. And I'm using a computer that I use just for Zoom sharing information. So it doesn't have quite as much RAM that's normal. It's 8 gigabytes, but I have 4 in this one. And it tells you what your edition is of Windows 10 Home. Now there's 2 editions that consumers will typically come across. One is Windows 10 Home is Home. Excuse me, let me get some better typing formatting here so you can see it. One is Windows 10 Home and one is Windows 10S. With a little S on it. The difference is that Windows 10S only lets you install new applications on your computer through the Microsoft Store application. Built into every Windows computer is an application called Microsoft Store. It's in the Start menu. So if you go to Start and you want to look on your menu for an application, you just go to the alphabetical list, and the Microsoft Store is an application that is built into Windows. But Windows 10S requires that you use the Microsoft Store to install applications. Windows 10 Home lets you download and install applications from over the internet. Okay, that's the main difference between the two. Most Windows computers that are typically below like $300 or $400 will typically come with Windows 10S, but mid-range, $400 or $500 and more expensive Windows computers will typically come with Windows 10 Home. There's no difference in the functionality. The only difference is that you have to go to the Windows Store in order to install Windows 10S tools. And the reason that is that S stands for security. So Windows came out with a little less expensive version of Windows to compete against Chromebooks. That's why they did it, okay, so that they could offer people lower cost Windows computers and not lose market share to Chromebooks, which are becoming very popular. Any questions about Windows 10S or Windows 10 Home?
You explained the processor. The one that you have, I know you said it's not yours.
Processor, okay. Processors are probably another class by themselves, but the processor tells you who makes it and what model it is and what speed it runs at. Okay, so it'll say Intel something, 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 and you can actually copy this, and type it into a web browser and get more information about your processor. But sometimes you might get an application, like I teach a class on Zoom virtual backgrounds for beginners. And one of the things that Zoom tells you is if you want to use the virtual background feature in Zoom, you have to have a processor that is this model or faster. Okay, and that's why it's helpful to know what processor model you have in there. And you can learn more just by searching the web, doing a Google search on a processor model.
Okay, thank you.
That's pretty much like telling you you've got a 100 horsepower engine in your car, or a 200 horsepower engine, or a 400 horsepower engine. It's how much power your computer has to do calculating and work for you. And it's probably the most important thing in terms of how fast your computer works and what it will do. And the more you pay, typically the faster the processor you get when you buy a new computer. So it's always good to be able to know where to find that. Okay, so one other setting that's helpful in this system information is storage. Storage will tell you how much storage you have on your local disk drive. Okay, your disk drive might say C, typically it's the C drive, or it might say system, but C is the letter that Microsoft Windows gives to your hard drive that's inside your computer. So the disk drive that holds your operating system, your software, and your work that you do on your computer is the drive inside your computer. And it's always a good idea to know how much space you've got available. Typically, people have much more space available than they think they do on a computer. Okay. Now, even things like iPhone 12s that are sold by Apple, if you bought a brand new iPhone 12, it would come with 128 gigabytes of storage. Most laptops and desktops come with about 256 gigabytes, which is typically more than enough for most people. But if you're a photographer, or you save a lot of documents, or you write books, or take photos and things like that, you probably will start to use up more storage over time. And this is a good way to know how much storage you have available on your local drive. This is the drive that's on your computer that's in your home with you. Now, this tells me I've got 48.9 gigabytes used. And to give you an idea of how much you can store in a gigabyte, 1 gigabyte will store about 1 hour's worth of video. Okay, so if you have a TV show or a video, things like emails and texts take up like less than a drop of water in a gallon bucket. So you can have tens of thousands of emails in a gigabyte. You can have a couple of 500 photos. But as you get into video, you use up more space. So the more you accumulate, it's like any kind of other files cabinet system. And I think later today we're doing a class on organizing files on your PC that shows people how to organize information and how to find them in the file system. But this is just your disk drive and how much storage is being used. And a lot of tools are automated on Microsoft now too. Is that this tool called Storage Sense? It'll automatically clean up old files that are what are called temporary files. When you download, when you look at a web page like Amazon and say you're shopping for household cleaner or laundry detergent or whatever it is you buy, and you do these things, you look online, what you end up doing is you end up downloading photos of all the products you might be looking at. They are stored in what's called a temporary file area. And you can clean it up manually if you want to, but if Storage Sense is built into Windows 10 now, and leaving it on will automatically clean up your hard drive. You might have heard at some point somebody say, well, gee, you should defragment your hard drive. That's not necessary to do anymore. Microsoft Windows 10 automatically does that for you. So a lot of these things that we used to do manually or needed to do to kind of keep our computer tuned up are now automated functions that are just standard part of Windows. Anybody have any questions about storage and about?
Where it says configure storage since or run it now. If you click that, would that clear up the unwanted things that you have? Right up
If-
under the word on.
Well, I have it on, okay, so if I wanted to clean it up now, I could clean it up now by double clicking this, and it'll automatically start to clean it up for me
Okay.
if you want to. But like I said, I have very, very little. It shows you on a chart here how much space I have available for temporary files. And it'll clean things up when it needs to, right? And so basically, it's an automated tool that says, okay, we're just going to take care of this automatically for you, and Microsoft will do that for you. If
Okay.
you're
Thanks.
more concerned about understanding what disk space is available or how to use disk cleanup, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see things like help from things here now, and you can look like using disk cleanup, using disk management, fixing low disk space if you have any of these issues. And they have more like, where do you want to save things when you create a new Word document or a new file? You can change where these things are saved as well.
Thank
So
you.
there's all types of different things. And these are just a few of the settings because there's so many in there that we want to take a look at. Okay. Let's take a look at devices. Devices are things that are connected up to your computer. So one of these things, I'm going to go ahead and hit mute all because we have some noise coming in from some microphones, okay? When you have some devices connected to your computer, they're commonly called peripherals. Peripherals are things like printers, scanners, a mouse, but other things, that USB devices that you have plugged into USB ports on your computer. And this tool in settings is how you can add a Bluetooth. I have a Bluetooth mouse, and so it shows up here. I have a microphone, I have speakers, I have a couple of different cameras. So it shows things that are available. You can fix Bluetooth connections. There's little repair tools here on the right. So if you're having a problem connecting, say, a Bluetooth device to your computer, or something happens to it, you can click on fixing it, and it'll bring up a troubleshooter or tools from the web that will explain to you how to fix connections. And it'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. So there's lots of resources and tools built in here. Printers are sometimes a problem people have trouble with. So this shows you I've got a printer installed here and other ones that are installed on my computer. And some of them are through software applications, but this Epson is my physical printer. And if I ever have any problems with it, I actually have a troubleshooter here on the right that I can run, that will run and detect problems with my printer connection and try and fix them and resolve them for me. So there's tools that are available within settings that include built-in troubleshooting tools that it's like having a built-in connection. I don't have a problem with my printer, but if I did, wanted to get more, I could click on it and run the troubleshooter for that specific printer. So that's print devices. Okay, so we'll go back in settings. And so we've looked at system, we've looked at devices. Now let's do a quick check on our network and internet. If it's working, it's working. But if you ever have a problem and you need to get something fixed on a network, it shows you're connected to the internet, but I could troubleshoot my network connection if I was having trouble. Okay, and so there's tools available in all of these settings that you can utilize that include troubleshooters. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so Windows has all of these features. Now, one of the common things that people ask me about is that, gee, Bob, I like using a different browser that came with Windows. Microsoft includes their Bing web browser with Windows, and it's a good browser, but you might be used to using something else, like maybe Chrome. And whenever you click on a link in an email or that has a website link, it might be opening up Bing, and you'd rather have it open up Chrome. Okay, so I don't know. Anybody have that issue that they're struggling with at all on their computer? Well, I'll show you how you can do that. Fix that. Under Apps, the settings for apps, it gives you the ability to adjust what are called default apps. You see my mouse here in the left-hand column? It says default apps. Default means it's going to use something unless you specify something different. Okay. And so when you click on default apps, it gives you the ability to change what app is used to do things. So web browser here is set to Microsoft Edge. That's the standard setting in Windows. But if you downloaded and installed Chrome, which I did, you can see my little Chrome icon right here on my taskbar. I could click on Microsoft Edge and I can select Chrome if I'm interested and change my default app. So whenever I click on a link in an email or go open up a website or anything like that, it'll use Chrome more than anything else. Okay, so Brenda thought of a question. Do I have to ask to disconnect a device? Well, let's go back to devices. And if you have a device that you don't want to be there, if you click on it, you can manage the device. Even though it doesn't look like these are things you can click on, you actually can click on a device and you can remove it if you want to. Okay, so typically when you power on your computer or you plug something new into your computer, it will automatically install the device. But if you don't want it on there, say you have an old printer that you don't use anymore, you can remove it if you don't need that printer any longer, if you've upgraded it. So that's how you can disconnect a device. If you unplug something from your computer, it'll disconnect it as well. Okay, but when you plug it back in, it'll reconnect it in Windows 10.
How can I disconnect the touchpad?
I'm sorry, Sandra, could you repeat
How can
that?
I disconnect the touchpad? Every time I lay on it, it changes things. And I
Well-
use the mouse. I'm old.
Sure, that's okay. No, you don't want to disconnect your touchpad. You might want to change your settings for it in system.
I did, but it won't disconnect completely.
Well, yeah, your touchpad is part of your system, your device driver. So if you go to devices, it might give you the ability on your touchpad here to adjust the sensitivity. But typically with a touchpad, you can't uninstall it completely because it's built-in piece of hardware in your computer. But you
Right,
can,
because I've gone to low. Mine just goes to low sensitivity.
yeah, if you just go to this is in settings
Yeah.
and touchpad and just try low sensitivity so that it doesn't pick up your touch as easily. That might be the only thing you can do with it. But they do have some things that you might be able to get help here too, because there's help functions in settings as well. But I've never had anybody that's wanted to ever uninstall their touchpad completely. But I know it can be aggravating if you accidentally touch it or tap on it, and you didn't want it to really do that. Okay, let's take a look at ease of access. Ease of access is what Microsoft calls their settings for what are commonly called on other devices accessibility. So ease of access over here gives us the ability to do things that will help with vision, hearing, and interaction. I'm looking at the left-hand column here. So it gives me the ability to change things like that'll help me use, my computer with, if I want to change, make it easier to see things. And it's not just things like text size. The most common things are making text bigger. So there's a tool here that gives you the ability to adjust the size of the text. And if I click on the little slider here, I can slide this over and you can see the sample text start to get bigger. Now this will make text bigger. So a lot of things may not fit on a screen at one time, but if I wanted to make my text bigger, I just slide it to what I want and click apply. It takes a second, and now my text is bigger. Okay, and it makes everything bigger. Zoom actually has controls to make things bigger if you want to. If you look at the top of your Zoom window where it says you are viewing Bob Cohen's screen, to the right of that is a view option that's available. And if you click on that view option, you can adjust the size of how things appear to you while you're using Zoom. So virtually every technology has a way for you to adjust things to make it easier to see and sometimes easier to hear. I'm going to drag this slider and move it down and click apply, and it'll make it 100%. Another setting is to just make everything bigger. Okay, so if I want to change the size of my icons in my taskbar, the size of things on my desktop, I can make everything bigger just by clicking one setting and going to 125%. You can see it makes everything bigger, but it also pushes things together tighter on the screen so that sometimes you might find it okay, but you also might find that it's annoying to constantly have to move things, move your mouse to slide things back and forth across the screen. That's another setting that might help you out. One of my favorites in ease of access is the mouse pointer setting. And if I click on the mouse pointer setting, I do have the ability to change the pointer size. Right now it's set to 1. I can make it bigger by going to 2, and it shows you an example of what it's going to look like as we go to bigger and bigger. You can make it huge if you want to. That covers up a lot of things on your screen when you do that. But this is just a slider, just like the text slider, that gives you the ability to change it. And you can change the color. Right now, if you look at my mouse, it has a black outline and a white inside. If I click on the color icon here, the custom, I can change it to a color. Now, these are colors I recently selected: yellow, orange, magenta, blue, green, purple, and you can see how the inside color changes. So I can also pick a custom color by clicking on the plus button here and just dragging my mouse around. Let's take a bright green. That usually is helpful, easier. Select that, and I'll click done. And now my mouse cursor is a bright green one. It makes it easier to see, doesn't it? So if you're thinking, gee, I'd like to make things easier, it's like those seat adjustments or rearranging books on a bookshelf. Make it easier for you to get to the things you want to use and easier for things you might want to use whenever you want to. There's tools for audio. Not a lot. I do have a little bit of hearing loss, and I've been wearing hearing aids for about 8 years. But on audio, there is a way to adjust the volume. There is a way to show visual alerts as well. if you wanted to have something notify you on the screen when instead of just a sound, you can do that. And then you have the ability to turn on mono audio, which sometimes is a little bit easier to hear than stereo for voices. And you can adjust closed captioning features so you can change how they look whenever you're using closed captioning. They even have tools. A friend of mine had ALS, and he passed away a little while ago. But for people that have severe motion impairments, they do have special cameras that do eye tracking. They actually will track your eye movement, and so you can actually use a computer without your hands, and even without your voice. You can use your eyes to move around and track things to type on a keyboard. So Windows, Macs, everything, but ease of access. They all computer companies have these tools built in under video vision to help you. And so say if you find you really want a little more contrast on your screen, you can change your screen view to a high contrast view. Just a way to help make it easier for you to use whenever you want to. Leave my cursor green because that way you can see it easier too, okay? All right, so any questions about ease of access? So these are all settings that give you the ability to customize a few things. Let's take a look at update and security. A lot of people aren't aware of it, but out of the box, when you bought your computer, Microsoft included an antivirus and anti-malware piece of software that's built into Windows. Many people buy retail computers, and those retail computers have information on them that offer free trials, for example, for a piece of virus protection. But out of the box, when you start using Windows, it automatically includes Windows security and Windows update set to automatic. So Windows updates its software. Software is a product that is something that updates over time, so that when you buy Windows, you also buy the updates for Windows 10 from Microsoft. That's included in your purchase. And that's one of the most important things to make sure you are doing is updating your Windows operating system so that it stays secure. They fix bugs, they patch security problems. And as long as you're updating, and most of the time, whenever you hear somebody that had a problem with hacking or virus, it's because they didn't update their Windows security, Windows operating system, and it's set to automatic. It checked today at 8:57 a.m. It even will check it in the background. I'm on Pacific time, so it even did it while we were in class. It'll do it when I'm not doing much on my computer. So if I'm just sitting here with my mouse hovering, it'll check for updates automatically. Now, it will typically install them while the computer is asleep. When your screen goes blank, your computer goes to sleep. And so it'll install it while it's asleep or outside of what's called active hours. So normally the active hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so sometimes Windows Update could interrupt you while you're working on a document or watching a video or in a Zoom meeting. And so it won't install things while you are in your active hours, but it will wait until after active hours and then automatically install an update. So you can also learn more about the latest updates from Microsoft's website if you're interested. So it's built in, it's automatic. It'll tell you if you've got one waiting, but it will do it automatically for you whenever it receives an update. Any questions about updates?
Yeah, under updates available, I have something that says 2021-3 update for Windows 10, version 2004 times x64 base. It says pending installation. I should have installed that.
Yeah, so you're seeing an optional quality, an optional update here? Is that what you're seeing?
It's not under optional, it's actually above optional.
Oh, it's above optional. Okay, so what it
Yeah.
did, Windows went and checked for an update. It found one, and it just says it's waiting to install. Okay.
Okay,
You can, if you do it now, it'll probably interrupt everything you're doing on your computer.
okay.
You can always click on it manually, Patricia,
Yeah.
and use it that way, but it'll do it automatically by tomorrow morning. It will have installed it for you.
Okay.
But
Well,
this,
where's the security at?
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're not on secure Windows security yet. Okay,
It's under Update and Security and Windows Update.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so Kathy asked, do you need Norton? No, you actually don't. Okay, so a lot of people, Microsoft includes antivirus and anti-malware software with Windows. And so it's not necessary to have any additional security software installed, but they, a lot of these companies make a lot of money selling security software to people with Windows. And if Microsoft said, well, we're not going to let you install yours, or we're going to do it ourselves automatically, they might, get, run into antitrust suits or things like that. So they don't make a big deal about the fact that they come with security in Windows that's supplied by Microsoft, but they are, and you don't need to install anything additional. On the Windows Security tab here, it tells you that you've got, whenever you see green check boxes, that means you're up to date and everything's running, and it takes care of it automatically. So you don't need to have an extra security software on Windows. It's built into Windows. They started doing it in Windows 8, but Windows 8 wasn't as popular as Windows 10. Windows 10, right out of the box, when you start using your computer, you have the built-in Microsoft security built into it. Okay, let's take a look at one more setting. It's called personalization. And as I say, all of these settings are available to do a lot of things with, but personalization is where you can do things that give you the ability to change information on your computer screen and just customize it. It's like decorating more than anything else. Is that you can change your background, you can install themes, you can change fonts, you can customize how your start menu opens up, and do other things. But one of the most common things that people like to do is you've got that computer screen, and if you've been looking at it for a long time, it sometimes is nice to change the background picture on it. This is how you do it. So it's in, let me change this around a little bit. It's in settings. If I go to menu, start, settings, and I open up the settings menu and I go to personalization, it gives me the ability to customize my desktop a little bit and a few other things. So this is my desktop picture. Right now it shows you a preview of what it looks like. This is the start menu. And so if I wanted to, it shows me 5 of the most recent pictures I used on my desktop. So if I had a beach scene here. So I'd rather see a beach on my desktop instead of a road, I can change it to a beach. And then my desktop changes, and you can see some of the text changes as well to match the color. So now when I look at my desktop, this is my desktop on my computer. It's that you can change it in the background setting that way. If I want to change it and browse a file on my computer, all I have to have is a photo. So as long as I've got a photo on my computer, I can do some things with it. I can change it. So if I wanted to change something to say island huts, as long as I can find the picture on my computer, I can use my own picture. Okay, so I can choose that, and it's going to change the background for me to that one. And you can see it just shows the 5 most recent ones here, but I can browse for anything I want to. So now my background is this one. Okay, so your computer screen is on a lot, and so you can kind of use it as a picture frame by doing this with the backgrounds. Now, one of the things that Microsoft gives you as part of Windows 10 is they give you access to what they call themes. On the left-hand column here, there's this thing called themes, and themes are a little bit more than just the background picture. Themes not only affect the background picture, but they affect the color scheme used for things like links. They affect the sounds and the tones you might hear, and they can affect how your mouse cursor looks. Well, where in the world do you get a theme? Well, Microsoft makes them available through the Microsoft Store. And I've been installing themes because I have been doing this class for a while. But if you look in here and you want to get more themes from the Microsoft Store, all you have to do is click on this link. It'll open up the themes that are available from the Microsoft Store automatically. And they have hundreds from, I mean, I've never gone through all of them, but these are all themes that have a selection of pictures. And so your wallpaper, your background will change a little bit. But you have things like street views, animal portraits, Bing sunshine, Arial Iceland, just a tremendous number of themes. This list goes on and on and on. And if you wanted to do something like hot air balloons, who doesn't like hot air balloons, right? Okay, so let's I selected the theme. It says it's free. So I can get, it says, give your desktop a new look with this Windows theme. And it has 11 images. Okay, so I'm going to get it. I don't know if it'll download in time for us to take a look at it, but it might. They're usually pretty fast. And so it's downloading. You know, it just takes a little time to download pictures. It's downloading hot air balloons, and it'll be available as a theme in my settings. Okay, so if I can change the theme anytime, I don't lose it. So if I wanted to see if this theme's available now, I can go to settings. I could click apply, but I'm going to go to settings, and there's my hot air balloons, and I'm going to click on it. It's in my theme selection. I click on it, it's going to change the theme, okay? And this will probably play as a slideshow if I let my computer go to sleep for a while. But now I've got this available on this is my desktop now. So it's just another way of doing things on Microsoft that gives you the ability to apply different types of things if you're interested. They also have another neat tool for backgrounds as well. It's a tool where you can get new wallpapers every day from Microsoft. If you look over in the right-hand column here where I'm pointing, one of these things is get new wallpapers every day from Microsoft. It's a free tool for Microsoft that installs a little application, and it shows you pictures all the time from Microsoft. Now, if you notice, one of the things that happened when I applied this theme is that it changed my mouse from a custom color to the standard mouse color. So if I wanted to go change my mouse color, I've got to be able to adjust it and clear and set it back. But this idea of getting new desk wallpapers every day from Microsoft, if you click on that link, it'll take you to Microsoft's website for what they call Bing Wallpaper. It's a little application that you can install that shows you new places every day. Okay, so it's you get a new image on your desktop, and you can also browse and learn more about them. And they give you a free tool for that to use it. So these are some of the common settings that are available to explore in the settings tool. So when you want to get to it, just click on the Windows button, click on settings, and there's always help. You can even search for a setting as well. So if you wanted to search for something you might want to change, like text size, or if you forgot what's my processor or about or anything like that, you can always request it. It'll do a search for any setting and it'll pop it up for you automatically. So any questions about settings? Hopefully this has given you a little better idea of what you can do with your computer to customize it and try a few things out. Yeah, Kathy. Kathy, unmute yourself, please.
There we go. Here, my husband, his mouse just stopped working and the batteries are fine.
Everything about my mouse seems to be working properly, except it doesn't.
Okay. Well, I mean, that could be any number of things. It could, so in settings, there's usually a tool where you can do a search for, you could say, hey, my mouse is not working. And if it's a Bluetooth mouse, it might just need to have the Bluetooth connection reestablished. But other different mouse manufacturers use different ways for it connecting up. So it can be a little bit different. So usually in the settings tools, there's a setting for devices, and or you can look for help on your mouse if that's available to you. So
my mouse won't let me get to settings.
oh, okay. So you don't have the ability to. So you might have to borrow somebody else's mouse then, or try different.
I had a Bluetooth mouse, and when it started to act up, I went back to my mouse that plugged into my USB, and neither one of them worked on my machine, and I know both of them are in pretty good condition.
Well, there's a difference between fixing a technical problem and understanding how to do things. And so it sounds like what I would do would be to get a mouse from someplace that'll let you return it, with that if you have any problems. Try out the new mouse. It just could be the hardware or it could be the software, but you might need to just replace the mouse. That might be the easiest. They're simplest thing to do to get something working again if it's not working right.
Thank you.
Sometimes you just look for the least hassle, right? If as opposed to trying to diagnose it. But sometimes it can be the hardware that fails too on technology. But once you get a mouse working, it's usually going to work unless it breaks down for the most part. And so that might be the issue there.
Thank you.
Sure. Let me do a few little wrap-up slides here. So we've got a lot of things we've learned in settings, troubleshooters, valuable settings that can customize your PC, how to do a security checkup, looking for troubleshooters and more. Those are different types of things that can help you out. Thanks, Dorian, for your class feedback. Appreciate that. We do a couple of other classes that are related to Windows and technology. So feel free to sign up for those. And we do keep track of your class history on the Get Set Up website. And I do some other classes on Windows 10 Basics, which teaches you how to navigate around the desktop and customize the desktop a little bit more, like the taskbar and other tools there. Organizing files using PowerPoint, PowerPoint Basics, now we call that. You're going to get an email with some class notes. You can refer a friend to a class and recommend it. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you for those of you that put some things in chat. That's great. And so when you register for a class now and get set up, you have the ability to invite a friend right when you register. So take advantage of that as well. And we encourage you to send an email to help@getsetup.io. If you're interested, we do have members that host interest groups. So if you're interested in suggesting a new class, sharing this with your organization, or requesting a session recording. And thank you to Victor for helping answer a few questions in chat for things like, screen capture and other things like that that were not normally part of the agenda. Appreciate that. Okay. So before we wrap up, are there any questions that people had that we didn't get to that you have that you might want to ask before we say goodbye and move on to more of our day, right? Anybody? Did you learn something today? Everybody, you learn a little bit more about Windows. Feel technology is a little more comfortable, and not as afraid of it as you were when you started off an hour ago, hopefully. Okay. Well, that means we've done our goal here at Get Set Up, and I'm glad to have helped you out. And I hope to see you in some other classes. Okay. Thanks for coming and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.